He's got a podcast, Cinephile, on the Meadowlark Media Network. He's on MLB, he's on DAZN, had a cup of coffee with the WWE, and sat with me during the Sundance screening of Sorry to Bother You, a film that we hope to never see again. It's my dear friend Adnan Virk. How are you, Adnan?
Ben, great to be with you as always. I thought you were going to say, speaking of short-form content, here's my short friend, Adnan Virk. Yes, thank you for running through the laurels that we've done together. Only you can appreciate this. And then we'll get to whatever you need to talk about, because this is very self-indulgent. But I finally read the Mark Harris book, Pictures in a Revolution. You know this is a critical book among cineasts and cinephiles. He talks about Bonnie and Clyde, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, In the Heat of the Night, etc. Came out like 13 years ago, right? I finally read the book. I reach out to our producer, Chris Cody, who you know and love, and say, hey, I know Mark Harris has a new book about Mike Nichols out, but I finally want to read. Finally read that book. I want to talk to Mark about it. Random House, all over it, sends me the copy of this new book about Mike Nichols. 600-page book. For those who don't know, won Best Director, The Graduate, May and Nichols. I mean, obviously, legendary director, etc. So I'm here at work right now. I'm ready to come on MLB Network once the Rangers and Tigers are over, but I'm locked into this Mike Nichols biography. How many other people are doing this other than you and me?
Honestly, Adnan, you are one of one. I'm always amazed at your passion for Vaisik Ahema as well as Amanda Seyfried. So you just really have the whole spectrum covered.
I love a good Eagles punt returner. He was great back in the day. Love Vi.
I do love Vi. I do want to talk about my Dodgers out here in L.A., being that one of your many jobs is working for the MLB Network. Dodger fans starting to boo Kenley Jansen at the stadium. What's happening?
So it's crazy. I remember a month ago or so, Brian Kenny, another former ESPNer who does a great job here at MLB Network, was saying, look at the numbers. Kenley Jansen's having a great season. I'm like, he is? I'm like, I hadn't really paid enough attention to it. And I was like, oh, yeah. I actually hadn't really put it together. And I remember you and I were texting a year ago, like, dude, he's done. Like, it's frustrating. It's upsetting. I know how great he's been, but you can't rely on this guy. And I couldn't imagine him coming back. But ultimately, he was able to bounce back after last season, had a great first half. But now lately, you've seen the concerns, you see why. I still think it isn't a strength for the Dodgers. You can see what you want with the Dodgers right now, but the fact that ultimately you don't believe in this guy. Now, listen, it was his first blown save at home against the Giants since 2013, and Dave Roberts, for the record, said he was disappointed to hear Dodgers fans booing Jansen. But I get it, Ben. When you're a Dodger diehard, you go, we can't go through this again. And these games are so critical. Like, say this for the Giants. Everyone keeps saying, well, they're not as good as the Dodgers. We'll wait and see what's the second half. In the first half, they had one of the easiest schedules in baseball. The last time I checked, we're almost at the trading deadline, and they're still in first place. So until L.A. catches them, San Francisco is really the team to beat right now in the National League West. And the Padres are 5.5 games back, and they still have the headlines. And I love Tatis because he's so electrifying, but the Giants need to get some respect. Posey's been remarkable. Brandon Crawford, their starting pitching is no joke. DeSclafani, Kevin Gausman could win the Cy Young if it wasn't for DeGrom. So unfortunate to hear the Boo Birds, but I think it's basically an indictment of the fact that Dodgers fans know, Ben, San Francisco's legit, and these games are critical.
Fun fact about the San Francisco Giants, they recently hired a former NFL linebacker named Brian Peters as a special breath consultant. Brian now works with professional athletes and helps them master their breath on the mound, on the field, on the pitch, and have breath control. And the Giants have hired Brian and his services. I know this because I met him at the car rental place over a 3-hour wait. And we became fast friends as I was struggling with my breathing. So fun fact about the San Francisco Giants. Adnan, there was so much talk about the star power of Shohei Ohtani during the MLB All-Star festivities. Since then, he's gone to throw 6 innings, and he's had another home run. But I look at these NBA Finals, and I'm like, wow, Bobby Portis is a household name across America. That's because he's playing when it matters most. If the Angels can't keep getting in the postseason or being in games that matter come October, how do you think that impacts the star power of Shohei Ohtani as long as he's in Anaheim?
I don't think it impacts at all, Ben. I'll be honest. It would be great to see him thrive in October. I'd love to see him win a World Series, but nothing is slowing down the emotion and the cavalcade of roaring right now for Ohtani. In the last couple of days, he signed an exclusive multi-year memorabilia deal with Fanatics. He's signing baseballs, $450, jerseys, $700, photos, $390. Right now, for Fanatics to sell on the MLB Online show. This is after he accounted for 28% of all All-Star Game merchandise sales. That's one dude among 40 who's accounting for almost 30% of all the sales. And since the start of July, he is the top-selling athlete on Fanatics across all sports. Let me repeat. That is the almighty NFL. That is the NBA. That is hockey. That is MLS. He's the number one selling guy now since the start of July. He's making $6 million in endorsements annually. That's the most of any active player in baseball. So I'm with you that the narrative would be a lot nicer if Ohtani goes into October and dominates. But the Angels' pitching is horrid, and that's not going to happen this year. But there is no denying this guy's charisma and his one-of-a-kind ability when it comes to pitching and specifically hitting. The fact that he's leading the league in home runs. I'd love to see him in the playoffs, but right now it doesn't matter. Nothing can dull the star power of Ohtani.
Adnan Virk joins the show. You know him from MLB Network and DAZN, as well as the host of the Cinephile podcast, part of the Meadowlark Media empire. Yesterday, the other Cine podcast host on Meadowlark, Amin Elhassan, came on this show and said that his Cine podcast was the best Cine podcast on the platform. As the host of Cinephile, what do you have to say about the host of Cinephobe and his harsh comments?
Listen, I love Amin Elhassan. He's a wonderful guy. Obviously had a few moments together at ESPN when I was filming with Russillo. I know what he's doing. He's trying to bait me into some sort of tug-of-war, but listen, I respect the opposition. I don't know what the numbers are. I can't actually look at the data, but I think we both have loyal audiences. Clearly, he looks at bad movies. I look at great movies. And I was a previous guest, by the way, on Cinephobe. So this is kind of like when Leno used to be a guest on Letterman all the time, and then eventually they had this big rivalry and the big separation. So listen, I've been a guest of this show. Well, he really set me up, Ben. He goes, hey, which of the following movies do you love? And I, of course, know the premise of the show, which is that whatever I like, he's going to hate. But I believe the options were like, The Departed, Cape Fear, Shape of Water. I knew Shape of Water would be a tougher argument, so I went with The Departed. And then I went on a show, and he kept telling me how The Departed stinks. And I'm like, listen, we all know it's not Scorsese's best. It's still a really good movie. And as I pointed out, when you look at that year, you cannot tell me Babel is a movie that you're looking to watch more than The Departed, all right? It's still elite company. It's still elite talent. And even if I didn't win that war with Amin on his podcast, I think Cinephile is more than holding its own.
Adnan, this is why I love having you on the show, because we were actually talking Babel in studio earlier in the week here on the Rich Eisen Show. So where else are you going to get two Babel references than when Adnan comes on the show? And something about Cinephile that Cinephobe doesn't have. Cinephile's been to the Academy Awards.
Yeah, absolutely. I was about to say, our ace in the hole is my man Ben Lyons, who clearly took Cinephile, which was this fledgling entity, and then you gave us actual street cred by getting me to the Oscars not once but twice. We won an Emmy together, although I don't even know what the category is because it was too long. It was like best interactive use of social media within an entertainment venue, and then we got nominated again the next year. So you're right, Ben Lyons is my secret weapon, and I love the fact you've been. By the way, I mean it's 3 different iterations here of Cinephile: ESPN, Cadence 13, and now with Meadowlark. You've been a part of every one of them, so you are part of the hat trick.
Well, I appreciate that, Adnan. And I know, like you, growing up a young boy who loved film, you always dreamed of winning Best Interactive Live Stream at an event across multiple platforms, also being hosted by a Disney star. So I think that's something we all got to live out our dreams on. But what do you remember about those Oscar nights? I know you got to interact with Kobe Bryant the year that he won an Academy Award. Yeah. You got to call the missing envelope, the mistaken envelope between La La Land and Moonlight, one of the great calls in the history of broadcasting. What do you remember from those Oscar nights?
That was my Do You Believe in Miracles moment. As you know, I was in L.A. a couple weeks ago for DAZN calling a few fights. Unfortunately, you weren't in L.A. at the time. I would have loved to see you. But in honor of you, because whenever I'm in L.A., I think of you and hanging with you. So I actually did the pilgrimage. I went to the Kodak Theater. I just hopped in an Uber, went there just to check it out. I'm like, I relived that memory, as silly as it may seem, of walking. I mean, there's no red carpet there now, but in that area and looking up that glorious staircase as you go up into the Kodak Theater. And then, of course, we were backstage. So, dude, it was remarkable.
Looks a little different on a Thursday in July across the street from a Hooters on Hollywood Boulevard, doesn't it?
I was about to say, so Black Widow, you're right, it was a Thursday night, and Black Widow was opening. So maybe I forget this, but I didn't realize Jimmy Kimmel is next door, like it's across the street from the Kodak Theater. So all these fans are actually lining up in the theater to go see Black Widow, and I'm thinking, all right, I mean, it was okay. I love seeing Ray Winstone pick up a check, speaking of The Departed, my man Frenchie. But it is a little bit different when you just see, passerby wandering around and strong smell of weed in the air. And I'm like, okay, this isn't exactly the love of cinephiles that I was thinking it would be. But we go back to those memories together. I'll never forget when we had one of the most immortal moments ever together. It wasn't just my call. You were there with me when we saw that Moonlight actually won Best Picture, and it wasn't La La Land. Our guy, I can't remember, Denny was his name, the stage manager. He was the one pointing to the camera to our right. And as you were talking and filling time with Sophia Carson, I looked over and I just saw Kleiner, and I didn't realize what the hell was happening, but I realized that clearly La La Land was not Best Picture. And then in real time, we kind of made that call together, and you had the great ad-lib, still a great night for the Academy. But all I really cared about then was this. I befriended Barry Jenkins because I knew he was a big college football fan. So we had DM'd each other, and in November of that year, before Moonlight was released, but it was creating some buzz, we had him on Cinephile, and he was awesome. And then when I saw him there on the red carpet, I just, basically said, hey, I'm pulling for you, and blah, 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 and he was great. He couldn't have been more gracious. So all I cared about was not only that Barry won and Moonlight was vindicated, but I hoped he would hear my call, because, of course, selfishly, that's all I cared about. And when we had him on Cinephile, let's say 6 months later, I think it was a year later. It was about if Beale Street could talk. I'd always say, Barry, did you hear my call? Like, I know you were there and you saw what happened with Kimmel, but did you see what I did? And he goes, honestly, I went back to Florida State to receive something, and they played your call. And I'm like, all right, that's all I care about. Al Michaels, you believe in miracles. You know I was a part of film history.
Adnan Virk joins the show, the host of the Cinephile podcast, a dear friend and a correspondent, of course, and host for MLB Network and DAZN. And Adnan, something I really enjoy about that night in particular, we got a chance to go to a fun little Oscar after party. I'm just looking for the free food because we've been on our feet all day long. This is an opportunity for you to go up to literally everyone in Hollywood and just say something. And I just always appreciate your approach. Like, if you see Michael Keaton on Oscar night, what do you do? What do you go up and say to him?
So I'm waiting in line for some French fries, and it's Michael Keaton and his lady, and me and my wife, Eamon, and I wasn't sure what to say. And as I'm thinking of some clever, witty thing I could say to Michael Keaton, he turns and makes eye contact and goes, hey, Adnan, how you doing? And now I almost fainted that Michael Keaton actually knows who I am. So we start blubbering away, and clearly my wife made a mistake because she said something about I love Batman, which he was okay with, but I think he might have given a slight eye roll, like, okay, another Batman, or when's the next Beetlejuice coming out, something like that. But I quickly thought of Game 6, which is a great little baseball indie movie in which Michael Keaton plays a playwright, much like your dad, diehard Red Sox fan, and he has a play opening up on Broadway, and all he cares about is Game 6, 86, of course, that immortal World Series Buckner against the Mets. So I mentioned Game 6 to him, and he did smile. He goes, oh, man, thanks so much. He goes, we made the movie for, like, nothing. Because I don't even know how little we made, but I'm so glad you saw it. I said, of course, as a baseball lover, indie movie lover, I thought it was wonderful. And then we talked about the Pirates. He's always a big Pittsburgh guy, and I said, man, I wish the Pirates were better. Clemente Bridge is so nice, et cetera. And then he kind of made a joke, something about, I was in a good mood before I talked to you. Now you brought up the fact the Pirates stink and will for a long time. And after that, I realized it was my time to get a quick getaway. But I love the fact that when I would see stars and get excited, like John Favreau, you're like, I know John. Like, I can introduce you. Like, that's a good guy. I just want to tell him I love swingers. And that's it. I just go up, give a little swinger slide, and move on to the next person. It was such a great night, man. I can't thank you enough.
Adnan Virk joining the show in addition to his work with the MLB, covering film with me at the Academy Awards. Adnan has a little bit of juice still in the world of WWE. We're in the presence of some WWE legends in here, and TJ Jefferson and Chris Brockman. You guys have anything pressing about the WWE that you need to ask Adnan about?
Take it away, TJ.
Well, Adnan, if you're up for talking about it, you had a quick cup of coffee there, and I was just wondering, like, how was your experience?
Listen, honestly, the people there were awesome. I'll never say a bad word about Corey Graves and about Byron Saxton. We all know what it's like when you're on a team and you're the weakest link, and that's never a good feeling. And those guys, and I knew I was obviously the weakest link, but they never made me feel that way. They were so kind and supportive, and recognizing the fact that, I'd never called wrestling on any level. I hadn't followed the sport in a long time, and I was trying to learn on the fly. And as Corey said to me, he goes, you are learning something on live television in this age of social media and trolls. Like, I don't envy the position you're in, but you have all the tools here for success. So we all know it's all about teammates, and I'll always be indebted to Corey and Byron, how great they were in terms of, hey, I'll call more of the terminology, you call the finishers, we can help you finesse this. And it was very, very generous of them. People often ask about the wrestlers themselves, all great. When I was dismissed and things didn't work out, Drew McIntyre reached out right away. Jinder Mahal, of course, I would love, South Asian and Canadian. Big E was awesome. He's a huge college football guy. He messaged me and said, dude, I hope you're not, I hope you don't have any bad feelings about this experience. It's a really hard job to do play-by-play, blow-by-blow for Monday Night Raw. They threw you in the pool, and, hopefully we'll see at some point. The weird thing, and you guys know this, is WWE, there's a lot of comebacks, man. There's a lot more comebacks in that sport than I think even in boxing. So who knows? Maybe I could resurface one day, but I really did enjoy my experience. I'm grateful to the people I worked with. I wish I'd done a better job. That's on me. I wish I'd been better at it. But it was a grind. I've got 4 boys, ages 13, 10, 4, and 2. As Ben listed all my jobs, it's pretty hard when I'm leaving every Sunday, flying there Monday Night Raw, Tuesday, flying back first thing, and I'm worried about my kids' dentist appointments. And, by the way, I've got a 2-hour show. So I know nobody cares about my problems and issues. But it was a lot of work to do. But I'm grateful that it happened. And I got to meet Vince McMahon a couple of times, and obviously had live feedback from him. So it was a really cool experience for sure. As Ben said to me afterwards when he texted me, it's a great story one day to tell the grandkids.
Well, I just love watching you on doing the Monday Night Raw thing, WWE, just sneaking in a promising young woman reference.
Well, I was so grateful you saw that because, listen, the cavalcade of negativity was kind of tough to overcome whenever I would check social media. So thank God I would get a text from my friend Ben Lyons because this was after the Oscars. And I'm like, okay, how many movie references can I get in? And, of course, most of the audience is not going to get them. But thank God my boy Ben recognized in a Mandy Rose bump shot, God's greatest creation. I said, there she is, promising a woman up next. And as I texted Ben afterwards, how many people actually got the reference? This is a movie about a woman who's been assaulted, is trying to get revenge on men, and I'm just getting it in here to Monday Night Raw. Fairly certain most of the audience didn't get it. Thank God Ben did.
Adnan, we sadly have to say goodbye. Didn't have time to talk about Silence, your favorite religious persecution movie that you drove 3 hours to New York City to see on Christmas Day, but something to save for next time on the show. Thanks so much, buddy.
How about this, Ben? I flew to DAZN, LA, a couple weeks ago, and the movies available on the flight, Silence was one of them. I couldn't believe it. I did watch Quick Change, which I love, one of my dad's favorite comedies, the great Bill Murray, only movie he directed. I rewatched him on Malcolm X again. I watched King of Kong, which I know you know. It's a documentary from 2007. I finally saw it, King of Kong, A Fistful of Quarters. But Silence was available. So on the next flight, I'll dial it up. Thanks, boys.
Adnan Virk, Cinephile Podcast.
Mic drop. Nice of him to join us after taking a break from being the Micro Machines guy.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Testaverde. Strong reference. Anybody here able to pull that one? I love that dude. He's like listening to a podcast on speed and a half.
Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.